good afternoon. So today I'm going to unveil a pretty ugly truth behind the standard practice of ECG, and I'm going to introduce you to neo-ECG, which is a game changer for the practice of ECG. But firstly, please allow me to put in perspective electrocardiography and what is ECG. ECG is currently our best tool to diagnose cardiac and cardiovascular illnesses. So cardiovascular and cardiac illnesses are responsible for about 48% of hospitalization throughout the world. So to put in Australian perspective, on average of 26 Australians die every day because of one of these diseases. Not to mention the costs associated to the welfare of illnesses and morbidities associated with these diseases. So we're talking roughly about $6 billion every year spent. So many of these deaths, and probably many of those affect particularly the comorbidities associated with these diseases, could have probably been avoided if symptoms of diseases are detected on time, or better. So ECG, as I said, is our best current tool for diagnosis diseases. It was invented in 1906, so that is the historical representation of the first clinically used ECG machine. Surprisingly enough, well, not surprising, I would say because of the good enough politics, nothing really changed since 1906. And yeah, the device might look different, but the principle is still the same. Although it's been known for many years that ECG is affected by a systematic error. So the procedure you see there in background, it is as ugly as it looks. So it's was the only way to measure this systematic error. Basically needed the patient that you see there in the background, encased in a metal structure, to be submerged then in the water with a lid closing the swimming pool at the bottom. Not even gases were allowed to be exchanged with the outside environment. So the patient is breathing throughout a closed circuit system. So a canister of chemical is underneath his seat to recycle the air that is breathing. And this was supposed to be done for the entire recording. That device is cumbersome, so you can't really measure the systematic error. So ECG, that's probably the reason why ECG probably sold and keeps selling well. So the market of devices around the world is roughly sitting on about US $1.5 billion per year, and is bound to grow with the growth of the population and with the new developing countries that are developing medical assistance system. Of course, it's not just the device, it's the maintenance contract that they come with the purchase of every device. And these figures don't include some specialized machines and devices like intracardiac recording, that are devices to record ECG from inside the cardiac chambers, which they cost roughly about $1.5 million each, and the average good-sized hospital probably 5 or 6 of those machines. So neo-ECG is not biased or not affected by this systematic error. For this reason, every time I present data, every time I try to convince people, particularly cardiologists, they want the device. And 2 of the largest hospitals in New South Wales, in the Sydney area, they invited neo-ECG for clinical trials. So the 2 hospitals, Westmead and Campbelltown Hospital, they cover about 1/3 of the population of Sydney. And it's quite a large chunk of the population of New South Wales as well. So the question is, what's different between neo-ECG and the standard ECG? From the point of view of practice, or from the point of view of the operational practice, really little, actually nothing it changes, because the magic, if you allow me to say so, is inside the electronic that is inside the recording box. So the doctor or the nurse still will place the electrodes in the same place where they need to be placed. Electrodes are the same in number, and they have the same name. So just the signals are better. Talking about signals, I understand that probably a very little number of cardiologists is sitting today into this room, and I can't see anybody walking down trying to chase me. That means that probably no cardiologists are around. But anyway, the reason why cardiologists chase me is because they want the device. As soon as I show graphs like this. So what this data tells, well, at the top you see a recording made with standard ECG. And I'm going to attract your attention on that little red square that shows a flat line in the top graph. So this was a patient that was recorded at Campbelltown Hospital, hospitalized with chest pain and suspected myocardial infarction. So the current diagnosis from ECG is not sufficient. So they need to take bloods every 20-30 minutes from the patient. They need to send them to a lab, and they need to wait until some markers into the blood they shows up that they basically say, okay, the muscles of the heart are getting damaged. Yes, it is a myocardial infarction. Let's try to decide which drug we need to give to the patient. In ECG, different stories. It tells you, and you can see in the same little square on the graph underneath, that something happens when there's supposed to be a flat line, as actually doctors see from the standard ECG. So those ripples, they are actually signals that you normally can record only from inside the heart, and they actually tells cardiologists that the damage is happening to the cardiac muscles right now. So if you can confirm damage is happening, then you can intervene earlier, so you can reduce morbidities, so you can save cost, and you potentially can save life. So I invented this technology a few years ago, and it took me a few years to get me to this point where I stand now. So I'm supported from a number of cardiologists. I'm Italian by birth, and now I'm Australian. So I presented this technology in Italy and in Australia, and I have the support of cardiologists across 2 countries and from many hospitals. So what I'm after is obviously partnership, mentoring, and of course investment, because as I said, this is an early stage device, is an early stage commercialization project, very early stage. So we need a partnership to complete the medical trials, particularly with animal models. So if you're interested or passionate about ECG, or you believe that this could be a game changer, please come and see me. Or if you want to look at pictures of ugly fishes as well.